Well, good morning, Son of Worshipers. This is George McClellan. I'm advised that we're ready at this end to broadcast the high priest of false security found in electronics is playing his tricks today, or maybe it's even Murphy. Today is the 22nd of November, 2016. It is an anniversary date. It'll probably always be an anniversary date. But it is the date that John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, 53 years ago. I was in Fort Gordon, Georgia, when that incident occurred. And it was a shock to the nation, absolute shock to the nation. Many things have come out since then, and revelations, but no one's ever put the finger on who was responsible for the assassination and death of a president of the United States. In any event, day after tomorrow is Thanksgiving Day, so those of you who are planning to drive away and visit friends and relatives and share that holiday, just remember to drive safely, go early, and remember the Georgia State Police are out there, the patrol is out there, local counties are out there, and they do write tickets, and they don't care whether it's a holiday or not. So you drive safely, drive within the bounds of the law, and come home safely. Still have to have viewers for this program. So I was going to talk about the media meltdown, but how could I bypass what Brian Pritchard has already done, BKP. He has had a very good assessment of that, and I can't add to it except to just say it was the New York Times. After that dressing down, they changed the rules they agreed to with Trump for their interview, and Trump says, "Well, no, that's not the way that we do business. You do not do business with Donald Trump by changing the rules. He will change the rules." Or he will make additions, or he will make changes to times and schedules. But obviously, the motto is you don't screw with Donald Trump. It's simply not going to happen. So there we are. What is now making the news for the media, which is still in its meltdown, it is a controversy, and that is what's Trump's plan for day one. Well, of course, he said he's going to end Obamacare. Day one, he will write an executive order that ends Obamacare. And now, good sentiment, easier said than done. People still need their insurance, and he's got to have a substitute plan. He does. He does. Paul Ryan has a plan. It's a workable plan. It's a great plan. It's a health care you buy your own and feed money into your own health care account. Use it as you see fit. When you want, I guess. There's of course a lot of other things, but mandates are gone. Mandates are going to be gone. I'm at my age. I don't need to pay for pregnancy insurance or for somebody else's abortions. Those are going to be gone. And if I don't have insurance that covers those things, the government's not going to fine me my money to help support people who don't make any money at all and pay for them. I mean, there's one thing about being fair, and there's another thing about being generous. And generosity should be left to the churches and the private organizations who deal in that type of thing. Salvation Army being one of them. A lot of those private organizations have gone rogue, and they have been around for so long that people just automatically donate money to them every year, not knowing that 90% of the dollars goes to staff work, 10 cents out of every dollar goes to actually helping people who are poor. So, we have to have some changes there. And I think Donald sees that, he knows that, and I think that is why the Trump will be a good president. In any event, good or bad, he's going to shake things up. Donald Trump said he will end the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's not a good deal for America. He has also said that he will re-examine NAFTA because that's not a good deal for America. With the passage of NAFTA during Bill Clinton's tour as president, America's industry fled the United States so fast it was unbelievable, leaving thousands and millions of people without work. Now, the problem there is employees in America, workers in America were receiving good salaries. They had salaries where they could pay a mortgage, send their kids to school, have vacations, do things that a middle class America does. The plan destroyed middle class America. Obamacare added his plan, which caused businesses to reduce work hours, reduce their workforce, and bring on hired labor, so they didn't meet the criteria of being fined for not having insurance for employees. So part-time workers had to find another job so they could keep up the pretense of at least being middle class. That will all go away. That will all go away. It has to go away. Of course, we have a deregulation nightmare. Trump has not said who he will appoint as EPA administrator, but I think that McCarthy woman needs to be looked at right now very, very seriously for jail. People who just outrageously overrun the laws that govern them, it is not good, and it should be addressed. But right now, Obama has ordered the EPA and other agencies, regulatory agencies, to absolutely flood regulations into the American workplace. With the stroke of a pen, Trump could end that right now by saying that any new regulation that comes out of this administration right now will be null and void. A good example is the Obama administration has told the Border Patrol people to leave a corridor, to not enforce the laws in a corridor from the border up the border, I think that corridor in Texas. Now, why would an administration order that officers leave a corridor open for people to flood in? Well, because it's unconstitutional, it's unlawful. The court's already told him he can't do it, but he's doing it anyway. What would a policeman who takes an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States do when he's given an unlawful order? The Army, the military, at least has a way out. If it's an unlawful order, you don't have to follow it. You might take your chances of court-martial, but you don't have to follow it. These people will be fired, but I think they have a very good chance of retaining their jobs, saving those jobs, and coming back to the work that they know how to do. It is especially important now, since that corridor is going to be attractive to jihadists who are moving into Mexico and then coming across the border, drug dealers, armed dealers. I personally think that is a criminal offense for the president to order that to happen through McCarthy. Also, I think that, not McCarthy, the Department of Homeland Security. I also heard that and read that he's ordered the cessation of drone surveillance aircraft along the border. What's that all about? We know what it's all about. He wants that flood of Muslims and criminals to come into America. He sees his legacy is in the pot. Where it belongs, and he's desperately trying to do something to at least salvage some part of his legacy. It is not going to happen. We're going to be in an area of turmoil here. When Obama was supporting Hillary, the day he went out on the stump for Hillary, gun sales in America rose. Once again, they spiked. Gun sales always spike when people are afraid. Keep your guns handy. We're going to be in an area of turmoil here very shortly, and it's important that you realize that turmoil could be deadly. It is happening right now. We have 4 policemen shot, one of them murdered, shot in the head while he's sitting in his car. This is an endemic crime that needs to be ruthlessly stamped out. And this is the results of the Black Lives Matter. Because all of these people so far that has attacked a policeman, with one exception. Well, that's not even an exception. They know he's a black guy. All of them are blacks. Every one of them. There's no Mexicans, no Hispanics. They're all black people, and they're murdering policemen. That they murder a black policeman makes no difference. He's in uniform. He represents the old order, and that's what they're after. That's what they're after. Cyber attacks and national security. National security, of course, we just discussed a portion of it. That's protecting our border. I have no doubt that there will be a barrier between Mexico and the United States that at least if somebody crawls over it or under it or through it, has a chance of being shot or blown away. That has to come. That has to come. We cannot continue assisting criminals to come into this nation. I think that Trump has the idea of having a guest visitor program. I absolutely agree with that. When I was a resident of Southern California back in the 40s, I was a little boy, of course. War ended. What was once a POW camp for Italians, it happened to be Italian prisoners in East Highlands, California, later was bought by the Orange Growers Association, turned into a labor camp. And I say a labor camp, it was homes for braceros being the guest workers. They had a little green card. They came across the border. Some of them brought their families. Some of them were just young men or young women on their own, but they picked oranges. Then when that process was done, they moved on to moved further north until it ended up at the Canadian border in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, harvesting fruit and vegetables for the America's tables. And they got money and they sent it home, and nobody complained about it. Nobody cared about it. Today we have people flooding in here who do not pick fruit and vegetables and harvest agricultural products, who send their money home anyway, but they take jobs from Americans capable of doing those jobs, like building houses, driving trucks, other things that do not require a farm labor mentality. So these people, this is America. We have people out of work. Salaries were too high. Unions demanded more money, and that was an incentive as well for private business to head south of the border or overseas. So they could build their products that they could sell in this country and make a profit. And a profit is fine. That's capitalism, I understand it. But when capitalism is the handmaiden of socialism, the two will not work forever. It doesn't last long. And the result being we have thousands, millions of unemployed Americans and those jobs overseas. Now, they're not going to find, I read, and I think you did too, we read where Apple was going to return production to America. I don't see how that's going to happen. We don't have enough people that will sit at a table like this 8 hours a day and do little finger work by welding or soldering circuits together. That's got to be the mind-blowingest job. That's got to be as bad as picking cabbages out in the fields. But still, the job has to be done. That kind of stuff ends up turning into robotics. The same with making automobiles. The Volkswagen company in Germany, for example. You go to Volkswagen, you order your car, and it'll be made while you're waiting. And it'll be made according to what you want on it, your specifications, and it'll be made all and assembled by robots. There's a wonderful video on it. It's about half hour long, wonderful video on that subject. So we have robots going to take over a lot of jobs, particularly the menial jobs. But those jobs that involve interface with other people, I don't think the robots are going to take that over. Well, maybe I might be wrong there. Well, I think you might know what I'm talking about. The national security includes the cyber attacks. I think Donald Trump has already expressed the need to have a a plan that will absolutely prevent cyber attacks. When China can go into the Department of Labor and these other federal agencies and just strip everything from their computers, then we're not paying attention. And why is it the federal government, who once led in security and in technology, why are we now 10 years behind everybody else? I mean, it took a long time to get rid of the dial phone when I was still an employee of the U.S. Navy, a civilian employee of the U.S. Navy. I mean, we're always behind because those agencies don't want to spend the money. They want to save it for other things. The leadership does. And so we're behind, and other people have penetrated us. And yet, on the other hand, we have first-rate penetration abilities ourselves, the NSA. The NSA knows everything about everybody. It can maintain, if it wants, dossiers on anybody that any agency with a law enforcement background wants to collect, and it's available. Particularly now, we're looking for terrorists, and we're looking for terrorists who speak some Middle Eastern language or a variety of that Middle Eastern language, because that's where the danger is coming from. Another thing, he says, drain the swamp. Help him drain the swamp. That's what he wants us to do, is help him drain the swamp. The swamp is what? It is the corrupted officialdom in Washington, D.C. His first step in his transition team is to not hire people who are in the old establishment. Now, there's an exception. The exception being Reince Priebus, but Reince Priebus, as far as I know, was not a congressman or a lobbyist, but he was the chairman of the GOP, and he did a very good job, and he remained loyal to Trump. So he is now Trump's, and will be Trump's chief of staff until he demonstrates he can't do that job. Then he'll be replaced. But those old politicians, those former congressmen who are lobbyists, who think they can get a job in the Trump administration, they're losing out on that sinecure. They're not going to get it. And Trump's even extended that idea one further. If you're a politician now, you have to wait 5 years before you can take a job as a lobbyist. Sounds like a good idea to me. That sounds like a very good idea to me. And that gets all enveloped in the idea of ethics reform. The Democrats have demonstrated clearly they have no ethics. They have no ethics. They will only do what is good for the advancement of their philosophy. And their philosophy, as it has been for several years now, is not an American philosophy, but it's right out of Karl Marx, which is the Communist Manifesto, and it's supplemented by the teachings of Saul Alinsky, who wrote the book Rules for Radicals. In other words, how to subvert and take over a country. We've seen it in action. Anyway, I've been going on here longer than my allotted time. It's time for a commercial break. So we'll see you on the other side. Cole, if you please.
Looking for in a vehicle, start your search at Schottenkirk Ford Jasper. We've simplified the process so you can move on to what matters, your family.
Circuit World, brand name merchandise at unbelievably low prices. Furniture, appliances, and electronics. Circuit World is locally owned and operated, serving the tri-state area. Circuit World has highly trained professionals to help. Visit your hometown Circuit World today. 3 locations in Georgia, Ellijay, Blue Ridge, and Blairsville, Franklin, and Murphy, North Carolina. No credit checks, so let Circuit World deliver to you today.
El Rey and Ellijay.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey and Ellijay.
Better days ahead. This is the big one. The 20% off MSRP model year end clearance at Days Chevrolet in Jasper. With huge savings over $3,600 off the redesigned Malibu. Now just $20,400. Save over $8,600 off Silverado Crew Cab LT. Now just $33,500. 20% off new Chevys. Right here, right now. At Days Chevrolet in Jasper. Better days ahead. Days Chevrolet. Find new roads.
I'm Sheriff Dane Kirby, and I'll stand up for you.
I'm Stacy Nicholson, Sheriff of Gilmer County, and I will stand up for you.
Stand up and speak out. No matter how rich, cool, talented you believe yourself to be, how you treat people ultimately tells all. I am Allison Sosby, District Attorney, and I'll stand up for you.
Pizza Hut makes great pizza, but they can't tell you what a gift it is. I can. They took a grilled cheese and combined it with stuffed crust pizza. To think, I almost wasn't here to try it.
How did you?
It's not important, Jen. What's important is that I watched the sunrise this morning. Then I got to stand in a room filled with this pizza. And later I'll stare at the ocean. Or maybe I'll learn Russian. Or listen to jazz. Or try my hand at needlework. Or open a door for a beautiful woman. Or read a human interest story, or make dessert wine, or ride a wild horse, or experiment with watercolors. Eat every slice like it's your last. Especially you, Doug. Especially Doug, right? You care about Doug. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza. Proof that no one outpieces the Hut.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in Ellijay, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Well, welcome back. This is George McClellan at FetcherNews.com, North Georgia's only live internet talk show. I'm on from 10 to 11 in the mornings. Tomorrow will be my last morning this week. If you want to call me, have a comment, it's 706-889-9700 or George at FetcherNews.com. We were talking about Trump's day one plan, ethics reform, lobbyist reform, drain the swamp. That's the idea behind that. Reorganize the EPA, and by that, he also says that Congress has got to scrap 2 regulations, old regulations, for each new one. What a wonderful idea that is. And there's literally thousands of regulations in the books that have no relevance anymore. It could be scrapped. Immigration reform, particularly the H-1B visa, which is simply an excuse for corporations and companies, even Walt Disney Corporation does it, to bring in cheap, educated labor to replace a little more expensive educated American labor, particularly in the computer field. So these things are fair to Americans. They're required. We expect them to do it, and I think we will see it done. I will talk about the Democratic Party and the identity politics that did them in when I get to my thoughts on short takes. Right now, there's another big question that's lingering out there that we have to pay attention to, and that's potential war with with Russia, with Putin's Russia. Now, Putin is all alarmed because, and I think rightfully so, because NATO and American hegemony after the collapse of the Soviet Union included moving into former states that were Soviet, like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Romania, and actually bringing them into the Western sphere. Ukraine was one. Ukraine was once the repository of hundreds of Russian nuclear missiles, nuclear bombs, weapons of all sorts, and the Ukrainians gave them all up, and they were taken by America, probably Britain and France as well. But the West got these things. There was an agreement made with Gorbachev that said that the West would not intimidate Russia after the collapse by trying to take over and militarize those former Balkan countries. George W. Bush, bent that agreement when he tried to put missiles into Poland. His reason for doing so, he said, was to defend against the growing nuclear threat of Iran. But the Russians saw it exactly differently because it was on what was formerly Russian soil. He took action. Now, Soviet Union was basically bereft of a military, bereft of leadership, bereft of money. They didn't have the finances to maintain that vast military. If you go to Google Earth, for example, and go to Murmansk, and just look along the shoreline of Murmansk, and you'll see literally dozens and dozens and dozens of rotting hulks of Soviet submarines. Most of them are diesel boats, but there's some nuclear boats there. Junk submarines and other warships sitting there rusting and rotting away. No country can maintain their own self-defense if they don't maintain their military. Our current president he killed that agreement, the missile idea, into Poland and into Hungary, and when he did that, Putin took the opportunity to extend the defense line of his country by reclaiming the Crimea, which is a big naval base at Sevastopol, and by extending taking over part of the Ukraine. And that's where it stops right there. The Sevastopol types, they welcomed, the Crimeans, they welcomed the return of the Russians. most of them were Russian anyway. The Ukrainians did not, and they had their little war, and things have come to a stop at a certain point. Obama offered to help the Ukrainians by giving them blankets and meals ready to eat, but not weapons. So we're at the point now where Putin absolutely believes that America has violated the agreements they had made under George W. Bush, under Ronald Reagan, earlier under Ronald Reagan, and they were trying to, and that the West was trying to hem in Russia and stop its progress as a nation. They were still recovering from the collapse of the old communist empire. So a lot of problems there. Question is, Trump and Putin. Hillary's campaign claimed that Trump was the right-hand friend of Putin. There's nothing wrong actually with talking with your enemies. Barack Obama has done it, but all he did was talk from a position of weakness, allowing the enemy to, ISIS, to form up in Iraq and Syria and cause all the mischief that they're doing now. So when you speak, you have to speak from a position of strength. We do not have that strength now. And Trump sees that Russia can be dealt with, but not with war. America cannot finance and hope to sustain another war. The Russians can't either. The Chinese can't. Nobody can do that. You just have to have the strength to project what you've got and scare the hell out of everybody else and say, well, we don't want to do it. Within the first 90 days after inauguration, Trump and Putin will have a chance to halt the downward spiral in the U.S.-Russian relations, avert a massive arms race, and save trillions of dollars in military budgets over the next decade, and more importantly, reverse the frightening prospect of war. The scenario is possible based on our exclusive sources in Moscow, America's source. We know, and we have private sources in financial institutions who know and understand this. But a false step could increase rather than decrease the probability of war. And the false step will come if our media pushes Trump to do something that Trump don't want to do, but they think should be done because it's a Democrat idea. It's a socialist idea. Putin has already said if Clinton was elected, there would be a war with America. With Trump, maybe not. We can talk this one out. Will the results of our election actually change history, or will the United States and Russia continue to stumble and fumble their way into deeper conflict? What are the hurdles they must overcome to succeed? What are the true dangers if they fail? These are important questions we need to ask ourselves. And how will Trump and Putin impact the economic scene of the world, gold, bonds, and investment ideas? Are defense stocks going to rise? Are they worth Americans to invest in? Possibly so. The headline here is Russia-U.S. relations are about to burst into the headlines with gale force. Russia is on a long march to war. That's an important point. We see them already reconstructing their military. They have projected a fleet into the Mediterranean Sea. Once was Britain's and then America's bathtub. Now the Chinese have invited in. There's 2 aircraft carriers there, a Russian one and a Chinese one working off of Syria. We're not there, but we do have an aircraft carrier in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. But Russia's on the long march to war. They're preparing for war. And to prepare for war is to warn other people, don't screw with us. I understand that. Obama doesn't understand that. It is the first major notion, the first major idea in modern history to invade and annex the territory of another nation. Putin did that when he went into the Ukraine. And that directly threatens the world order that has prevailed since World War II. It has the most pervasive anti-American propaganda machine that we've ever experienced since World War II, or since the Cold War. It's rapidly upgrading its firepower in the Baltic Sea and adding warships armed with long-range cruise missiles. In the event of a conflict, it could defeat NATO forces in the Baltics, that's Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, within 60 hours or less, according to the experts at the RAND Corporation. Second point, we're hearing rumblings of nuclear war. Nuclear war. Russia and the U.S. are rapidly expanding their arsenals of what was once called tactical nuclear weapons. They're smaller than the strategic nuclear weapons that were the hallmark of the Cold War. They pack more destructive power than the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The assumption on both sides of military strategists has been that these tactical nukes would supposedly not cause assured mutual destruction. That's the MAD that Ronald Reagan talked about. And they lack it, but as a result, they lack the deterrent power that has so far helped prevent nuclear war. The fact is, there's no agreed upon dividing line between tactical and strategic. Thus, their deployment could lead to escalation, the use of the larger strategic weapon, and ultimately assured mutual destruction. After all, what's to stop the Iranians from loading one on a ship, not even their own ship, a ship of another country, and sailing it into New York Harbor? And that's the point they're trying to make. The submarine's not going to stop it. According to the Financial Times, Russia is putting the nuclear gun back on the table with the most intense posturing by Moscow since the Soviet era. In just 3 weeks, Russia has canceled 3 deals with the United States, 3 nuclear deals with the United States. It has moved nuclear-capable missiles into Kaliningrad, the Russian Baltic enclave wedged between Poland and Lithuania. I was there a year before last. I passed through there. I don't say I stopped and visited, but we passed through there. And that threatens the 3 Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And it threatens them directly because those 3 border Russia. At least Estonia and Latvia do. Latvia does. Lithuania borders Poland and Belarus is still pro-Russian. So it's a very dangerous situation. What is brewing is fans of war, the clouds of war, whether we like it or not. As in all conflicts, it's not one-sided. Many analysts agree that it was effectively NATO that started the Cold War by expanding eastward towards Russia's border. And future historians will have to figure that one out. In any event, that's the warning for the day. I want to now go to my final thought. It has to do with this business of the Democrat Party. I wrote this one today. Why the Democrat Party didn't prevail. I think it's a cultural thing. And I titled this one, It's a Cultural Thing, Stupid. Slowly, the opprobrium that has long been directed to Donald Trump by the fawning far left-wing media, as well as the loser establishment GOP elites, are slowly shifting to refocus on the abysmal campaign the Democrats thought they were conducting through the inevitable presidency of Hillary Rodham Clinton, the anointed one. The failure of that campaign requires a deep and a penetrating examination, but autopsies can be brutal. The forensic examination of the Democrat corpse now underway has shown the party to be very thin-skinned, with no depth. Their nihilism is apparent, and the verdict was clear. The Democrat Party simply didn't understand the mood of the American public, made no effort to understand that mood, assumed that was once reliable truths in the loyalty of their bloc votes like the blacks and Hispanics would remain, and they dismissed Donald Trump as a redneck buffoon, albeit a rich one, but one who could not possibly be expected to resonate with the American people. Mistake number one, for Hispanics, there is a pool of family and religion that penetrates deep into their very culture, bound by traditions and reinforced by daily practice. A reverence for the old ways remains intact, the old ways being family, church. The Democrats, having long abandoned the moral code as a policy, didn't even understand that. Worse, it was Hillary's time. She deserved it. She earned it. And by God, she was due it. With corporate thinking like that, who needs enemies? The Democrats apparently missed the memo that challenged their relevance. And no amount of money from George Soros could change the no relevance factor. The party is dead. Long live the party. Not all was dark in the Democrat ranks, even if Hillary wouldn't or couldn't speak to the malaise of the displaced Americans she was counting on to get her into the White House. Old Bernie Sanders did. As a populist, like Trump, he settled on a few key issues to champion his campaign, issues that many in the disintegrated media class understood, and he went with that. But fraud and deception ended his pursuit of leadership happily. That would have pushed political America over the brink into historical oblivion, set on the shelf and America set on the shelf like the old Roman Empire. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has pulled us back, barely, from the brink, and will have to fight like hell to beat off the savage attacks that will come at him from establishment elites trying to keep some operative semblance of an elite establishment and some level of relevance in order to maintain the fraud. Trump understood that American culture in its many parts and how to convert it. He spoke in honest terms, and the American public listened. By an earlier definition, the area called Washington, D.C., filled as it is with uncomprehending political operatives, and I'll call them serfs, who have paying jobs, enjoy small perks we on the outside don't have, and can't see beyond the Beltway, exist only to work. They live in a latifundination, a great feudal state primarily devoted to agriculture, in this case politics, using primitive tools, corrupted influence, with little incentive to bring in new ideas, techniques, or methods to satisfy the popular will by embracing the moral codes that once made the estate great, made the state wealthy, and most important, made the estate strong. They came as raiders, stripped it of its purpose, and converted it into a crime syndicate. The party encourages riots in the street, murders of policemen, and arson and looting of cars and buildings. The elites who demanded Trump accept the results of the election and are now the ones who refuse to accept the results of the election. Now, I mentioned here, and I will get heat, the party encourages riots in the street, murder of policemen, arson, and looting of cars and buildings. I'm referring directly to Barack Obama, who has the bully pulpit. He could stand up there and say to stop this. This is not the American way, don't do it. He has not done it. He supports the Black Lives Matter organization, and they're the ones shooting policemen. And if the Democrat Party cannot stand up, and one or two of them have, Mike Machen, for example, stand up and say, this isn't right, we've got to change, that party will be forever lost in the wilderness. Good question I read the other day, is the Democrat Party, or is Barack Obama the last black president? Well, he sure will be if he sticks with the Democrat Party. And The word is now that he's going to stick with the Democrat Party. He's making efforts now. He's bought this expensive home in Washington, D.C., where he's going to live with his family so he can go back to, the children can finish their high school. And he says he's going to meddle. He's going to speak out whenever he thinks things aren't going the way he thinks they ought to go. I'll tell you what, that guy do you think Trump's breaking traditions? That guy's breaking traditions. It has always been. It's just tradition. It's not written anywhere in stone that the President of the United States, the outgoing president, at the time of the inauguration and the swearing in, he goes out the back door of the White House, gets in his helicopter or his car, and is driven off to wherever it is he's going to go, the airport or his home in Brooklyn or wherever. So we will understand shortly enough, just how badly this man intends to mess with Trump. I don't think he has a chance. I don't think Trump is going to screw with this guy. Trump's going to be in charge. Trump is a boss. Trump is the man who sets the course that they're going to follow, and he's going to follow it. One or two other things here I'm going to cover. The democratic process is not coming to an end, although it's and I said the democratic process. America is not a democracy, it's a constitutional republic. Democracy is simply the idea that everybody gets to participate. That's it. But by participating doesn't mean you get to win. It means that everybody gets to have their say. But this is up. The Department of Justice, that's Obama's Department of Justice, fines the Denver sheriff for excluding non-citizens when hiring. Whoa. I think that's going to be a short-lived thing. President Obama's DOJ fined Denver County Sheriff's Office $10,000 after it required applicants for deputy sheriff's jobs to be U.S. citizens when hiring from the beginning of 2015 through March 2016. And if you wondered why people voted for Trump, well, there's one good reason. There you go. Another headline, Sessions will make a fine attorney general. In terms of experience, fairness, and administrative capability, Jeff Sessions, and he's the senator from Alabama, is a fine candidate for attorney general. DOJ's reputation needs to be rehabilitated. After Obama. And that includes the leadership of the FBI. I still have my faith in the Agent Corps. They did a lot of things to make things happen. And the word is, Trump is not going to, he's going to let Hillary Clinton slide. Well, that's a headline. That's wishful thinking. That's what the press hopes will happen. Now, as Brian PKP said earlier, he's not going to make waves the first 100 days as far as Hillary Clinton's concerned. He's going to let the process go on. And right now, the biggest process is going on in New York City by the New York City Police Department. The detectives there are going to dismantle the Clinton Foundation. They're going to dismantle it. And Clinton will go to jail. I suspect that she'll go to court anyway and be tried. And I am being signaled that my hour is up. It has been a pleasure talking to you. You can email me, george@fetchingnews.com. Or telephone and leave a message. I'll get to it tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, if you're heading out today for Thanksgiving, drive safely. And remember, the cops are out there. So see you tomorrow. Thank you.